Hello, everybody. Hopefully, I am live. It's so hard to figure out where to look in these things. Got a cat at my feet who's looking to be loved on, so hopefully, I'm centered okay. I'm excited. Oh my gosh, I have 3 outside the box with Sherry's this week. This is my second one, and I'm gonna be interviewing Mel Cook, and hopefully, she'll be on just shortly. And this is always the hard part here. Anyway, let me just tell you what outside the box with Sherri is. And it's basically highlighting people who think outside the box. I like to shine a light on those entrepreneurs. Sometimes it's authors, sometimes it's speakers, writers, actors, whatever specialty you have. Maybe it's just somebody who's showing up big in their life. And so, like, I really love to shine a light on people who are doing extraordinary things. Got a really special episode that's coming tomorrow that I'm interviewing a mother-daughter duo. So I'm really excited about that. And because the daughter's only 7. So that's kind of really cool and exciting. So I'm like excited about that too. So hopefully you'll join tomorrow. And it's at the same time. It's at 3 o'clock. So I'm hoping that Mel's going to be jumping on here just real quick. I think, if I'm not mistaken, oops, maybe I forgot to have that. I always forget to touch that. Mel is actually, I believe, from Baltimore. There she is. Let me see if I can see if she pops on here. She's coming on. And I think she's from Baltimore, but I'm going to have her, so just adding her. Hey, Dr. Ty. Okay, let me see if I can add her again. Hey, Mel, I'm trying to add you. If you want, you can request an ad. Sometimes that works faster than me adding. Could be my crazy internet. Who knows? There she is. Hey.
Hello. How are you?
I'm awesome. Thank you so much for joining me. Oh my gosh, I loved your live this week. It was so on point. I felt so convicted. Wasn't that great?
Did it work, Sherri? That means it worked.
I could show you my calendar so you could see if I did some time blocking. It was amazing. I loved it. Anyway, so let's get to the business of having you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are, where you're from, and some of the things that you're doing. Because I know kind of what it is, but I want you to share with our viewers.
Sure. I am Mel B Cook. I'm outside of Baltimore, Maryland. I've been residing here for 16 years. I'm a native upstate New Yorker. So outside of the city, because once you say New York, everyone's like Manhattan, Brooklyn, and they start throwing barrels.
Right.
I'm an author, a speaker, and a coach. I have a couple things that I have going on regularly. Also, with 5 other women, we actually have a community called G Women, where we do motivation, accountability, sisterhood. I also do speaker development coaching once a week. So all of my speakers, if you need to sharpen your storytelling skills, I'm your girl. Also
Awesome.
Doing personal and professional development coaching.
Oh, I love it. And my business strategist is on there throwing some hearts up for us. She's constantly tweaking mine and on me. So I love that. I just love the services that you offer. And I think everybody can better that speaking experience. You know, we're all required to do that anyway, whether it's in our job, whether it's to your kids and their friends. I mean, there's all those places where we have to have good speaking skills, and people are so nervous about it. And just trying to get to that space where you have that level of confidence for the delivery, I think is such an important place to get to. I mean, it doesn't matter. And I think we should be doing that. I'd love for you to share your thoughts on this. I believe, we have quote unquote one speech class in high school, at least I had one, and I had one in college, and that was it. And I had people like waited to their senior year to take this like 100 level course because they hated public speaking so much. And I was always like, what? I'm like, I didn't understand it. So can you share with that, because you do coach on that and stuff like that? I think it's really interesting, and what your thoughts are on perhaps easing people into that earlier on in life, and what your thoughts on what might be a good way to do that.
So first off, speaking is not just for speakers. Like when you say speaking development or teaching you how to develop your story, people automatically so I don't want to be a motivational speaker. I don't want to ever get on stage, but it's the art of communication. And so like
Right.
you said, we all have to develop the art of communication, whether we're dealing with our children, our spouses, on the job, or if you truly want to be a speaker. So I think a lot of times we put so much pressure on ourselves because if I open my mouth, what happens if I make a mistake or someone
Right.
doesn't agree with my opinion? And I think we're taught to kind of silence that voice a little early in life, right? Because if I speak up, stay in a child's place. Or you
Yes.
hear things like you speaking up in class and, kids are not normally the nicest, right? So you get that
Right.
voice silenced really early. One of the things that I
Yes.
teach people is it's just a conversation. We're all people. We all have
Yes.
human experiences. So we connect at a human level most of the time, not a logical level. So if you can just be transparent and share your full story, there's someone that's going to connect with that story. And don't get caught up with what's the response? They didn't say anything, and then put that pressure back on ourselves. And it should be taught at a much earlier age.
Absolutely. And I was just listening to something earlier, some self-development stuff, and I was listening. The one piece that sort of stuck with me was about when you're in communication with somebody and you're listening. Are you listening, or are you waiting to say something? And it's really two different things. And I
Very
don't
true.
know that we teach that young enough, that there really is a difference.
So I was reading Power Listening by Bernard Ferrari or Bernard T.
Mhm.
Ferrari. It's awesome, but it talks about the different types of listeners. One, those that listen because you're
Mhm.
waiting to prove your point or someone to validate your point, or the person
Right.
that's listening wanting to respond like immediately, like we didn't even hear the whole phrase or sentence out.
Hmm.
Listening is very hard. You don't
Yes.
think it's hard? I have a 6-year-old, right? So like when I'm in the car with my 6-year-old and I pick her up from school and she tells me about her whole day, I have to remind myself to consistently check in because she's going and I'm like, you might need something here. So check in. And I think that's the same thing when we're talking to adults. Sometimes we
Hmm.
think that information that they're sharing doesn't really have a value to us, so we stop listening. But there's always a value in everything that we hear. We can choose what to do with it, right? But
Right.
always listening with the intent to learn something helps me slow down because I'm a girl who goes at 110 all day.
Oh, right. Exactly. And I think as entrepreneurs, like oftentimes it's a blessing and a curse. It keeps you going, and in the grind. But I think that is sometimes that spot where we have to stop and go, okay, did I really hear what whoever said? But it goes back to I something else that you said about, we're all speakers, and you're a speaker in the fact that you're communicating. And I think there is a breakdown in that, in our relationships in general, whether it's with our children, whether it's with our spouses or significant others. We have to learn that skill. We aren't just born to communicate. We are born to be able to develop language, but I don't know that we're born to learn how to be good communicators. We have to learn that. I mean, we're not innately born with that, you know.
And one of the
We
biggest, I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
one of the biggest things I think that we need to understand is that everyone communicates differently. So,
Hmm.
like, I can call, so we have this thing called the Four Animals Assessment. And it's a combination of strength finders and disc. And
Hmm.
so I'm a lion in that sense, right? But my
Hmm.
husband is a chameleon slash turtle. So what that means is he's a little bit slower to communicate. He's a little bit slower to process information. And so I have to remember as the lion to calm down, to relax, and to allow him to process. And I
Yes,
think we need to be able to adjust to different styles and understand that we don't all hear, listen, or communicate the same way.
correct. And I live in that same situation too. And sometimes I just have to want to say, spit it out. I mean, I know he's thinking, because I know what facial expressions and what he does when he's thinking about what he's going to say. But we're very different in that way, as I'm just more effusive and I just throw it out there. And he's more the methodical plotter. Let's see, I think I'll say it this way. And I know that. So I have to sometimes just
Best thing
bite
that
my
I've
tongue.
learned
Yeah.
from
Because
being married.
right, otherwise I'm the one communicating and it's like a Super Bowl. It just keeps going back, when it's me talking. So I have to stop and just wait till he's ready and then listen to what he says and then respond, because otherwise I run over him.
And then he's checked out. So both my husband and my son, I promise you, like I had to learn when to just stop, when enough is enough, because they're processing and I'm still downloading. I'm like, and it's overload now. So now that I've gone on and had this conversation probably 15, 20 minutes late or longer than it should. And then now what got resolved out of it, right? So
Right.
learning that same thing of when to just, girl, button it up. Like, calm down. I call it the art of being quiet, but the art of being quiet. And sometimes we need that in all relationships.
Absolutely. And that's totally true. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about, because I told you I listened to your one of your lives this week, and was talking about, was it time management or priority management? Yeah. And I can't remember if it was on yours, but it was so interesting to me. And I think it was on a different thing that I was listening to, but was talking about how there is no such thing as time management. Was that you? Was it yours? I'd love for you to share that.
Yeah.
Okay. So talk a little bit about that, because everybody's like, oh, I'm so busy. I don't have time to do this. I don't have time to that. And being in a network marketing company, I get that a lot from people. If they're looking at, joining me in the business, they're like, I don't have time. And I'm like, I got the same hours as everybody else. So like, that's always perplexing to me. I have no more hours in a day than anybody else. So, can you share a little bit about that time/priority management?
So I learned very young that there's no such thing as time management. We all have the 24 hours in a day. Can't remember which book it was I read it in, but it's probably in several at this point in life, right? John Maxwell, developing a leader within you. So there's no such thing as time management. It's only priority management. So it's a lot of times of how you choose to spend your day. And so you meet a lot of people and they're like, oh, I don't have time to hang out with you. I don't have time to do homework with the kids. I don't have time to go back to school or to be an entrepreneur. And so my question is always, what do you do with your time now? Like, what have you deemed as your priority? And does your schedule match your priorities? Because a lot of times we'll say we want one thing, but if we take a look at all of the actions that we did within a day, nothing led to that goal that we said we wanted. And people will say things like, I get easily distracted. Are you easily distracted, or have you not chosen it to be your priority? So if you say that I want to be an entrepreneur, but then you invest no time in your business, or the only time that you invest in your business is on weekends, or you invested, oh, I got to wait till the children. So what took as the priority? So you can say that you want something all day long, but unless your actions actually lead up to that, then what are we doing here? That's not a priority. And so I think I actually titled it this: make sure your priority is your priority. Because we'll say, for example, the simplest form is, let's just say you've set a budget, right? And say, I'm going to go out and I only have $1,000 to spend for the next month, right? And you took that $1,000 and said, but I really want to go to Jamaica. So you bought the Jamaica vacation instead, right? Instead of investing it into your home or paying your rent or your mortgage with it. So then now Jamaica became the priority because that's where you chose to put your resources. So it's a matter of figuring out our actions to line up, but also our resources as well. So we truly do what we say that we want to do.
Exactly. Right. And I know, and see, that's why I couldn't remember if it was yours that I had listened to or somebody else, because they were talking about there is no such thing as actually such a thing as time management, because you can't manage something you don't own.
Correct. That you can't get more of. Time is the one thing that you can't recreate.
Right. So I was like, that was like really like, whoa to me. I'm like, that is so true. And that's why I really loved when you called it priority management, because I think that there's such a difference in that between, people thinking managing your calendar or your time spent on things, but you don't own the time, but you do control the priority management, which, is the use of the time, because the time is there with or without you, right? So
Right.
that doesn't change because your 24 hours is my 24 hours. It's just what we do in those 24 hours that differs from person to person, and what we value that we spend our hours on. So that's why I really love that you hit on that with the priority management, because your priorities you do get to manage.
All day, absolutely. But the time you
Mm-hmm.
have no control over. Like you can't make recreate the days. And again, just making sure that we're clear about that what your priorities are. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that requires some self-assessment and some self-awareness. And a lot of times we don't devote time to just that. Like, let me just pause for a second and figure out right now what I value and what's more important to me. And so then I think that's when we causes whirlwind to happen, and we get pulled in so many different directions because we're not even clear about what we're trying to accomplish. And so if you don't
Right.
have a plan, or I say a budget for your time, then you're already at a disadvantage.
Right. I love that. I never really thought of that word and budget in relationship to time, but it's true because it's not an endless resource that we have. It's a very finite number. It doesn't change, but you only have so much in a day, and you do have to figure out how to budget so that at the end of the day you have accomplished what you want in the way that you want. And not to say that sometimes the way we spend our time comes out exactly producing what we want, but at least if we know what our priorities are, the time we are investing gets us closer to where we want to be.
If you
Um,
take care, if you do what you need to do today, tomorrow takes care of itself. So you don't always get that end result that you expected, but you're going to get results. And then at that point,
right.
you can decide what you want to modify or adjust, because it might not quite look like the picture that you envisioned. So then you go back, you tweak it, and then you go back to work.
Exactly. And that's funny. That's a Sherri original quote right there. It's like, do nothing, get nothing, do something, get something. And even if it's not exactly what you had hoped for, at least you have something to work with.
Loved it. Love it.
You
You
know,
got to
like
start
I think,
somewhere.
right. I think sometimes people think, oh, well, that didn't work out, so I'm done. I'm like, what do you mean you only did it once? What the heck?
Mhm.
And like, is that was all the importance it was? I tried once, or I tried this, or I asked 3 people, and the rest of the 7,990 some billion people don't matter. I'm like, they're not interested. I'm like, that is just, what, that goes back to what you're saying, the priorities. What really is your priority at the end of the day? Because that knowing what the priorities are helps your budgeting of the time. I know where you're going with it. I just had this conversation right before I came.
And I think that's where character development comes into play too, right? Because if you've
Mm-hmm.
decided that now that you've been distracted, or now that you've hit one no, then that's a complete red light. I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. Like, you have to be able to build up some muscle somewhere along the way.
Yeah.
And when I see that a lot of times, especially for entrepreneurs who think you come out of the gate and you just, things just happen, like
Right.
instantly. Like, you have to be able to develop some muscle and some character, and that personal development piece is so important, because you can't just keep quitting. Every time that you hit a roadblock, it's like, I'm done. This isn't for me. Like, no one,
Right.
or you get those who make the excuses. No one wanted to buy from me. This isn't the right
Mm-hmm.
market. It's like, no, adjust and figure out what went well and what didn't, so that you can get yourself back on the wagon.
Absolutely. And if your priority didn't change, then you will do that.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't, then it was really never a priority. And that's a hard spot for people to actually face up, look in the mirror, and say, yeah, it didn't really matter that much to me.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't committed. But that's really what the bottom line comes out as. If you're not willing to do that self assessment and look at, what did I try? How did this work? What was the result? And it wasn't what I wanted. Let's see what I can tweak. If you're not willing to do that assessment, you're probably really not committed to whatever it is that you're working on anyway. I
So
mean, that's
true.
just reality. I just came from a networking group just a couple hours ago, and one of the gals stood up, and she's actually helped senior citizens. And she said, when she stood up and gave her little thing that announcing what her business, what she's doing right now, and how we could help her, she said, I just needed to let you guys know, no matter where you are in your business, she said, I've been growing my business for 10 years. And she said, I've finally hit the spot where I actually have to hire a staff. It's taken me 10 years. And she said, had I given up at any point, I wouldn't be standing here having this conversation with you. And she said, things don't always happen quickly or fast or in the way that you think they will. But if you keep focused and stay the course, you'll get where you want to go. And, like we literally gave her this huge round of applause because it's one of those things that, so many people as entrepreneurs, no matter what it is, you just throw in the towel. It's way too soon,
So I always look at it's a lady by the name of Judy Faulkner. She owns Epic Systems in Wisconsin, which is a health system, EMR, EHR system. And whenever I feel myself getting to a point, I think about her story. So she has been growing her business since the 80s, like literally since the 80s. She's been trying to get this business off the ground. She's been trying to grow it. Had a little success, but not huge success, right? Not anything that was celebratory at the time. So if you look at her today, she has created an entire economy in Madison, Verona, Wisconsin, strictly around her business. She has thousands of employees. It's like the Disney World or the Mecca for IT. It is awesomeness. But she didn't get that type of success until like 2007 or 2008, when it now became the federal government was giving out stipends in order for you to get on EMR EHR system, right? So they were giving you incentives in order to transition your medical office onto this platform. And she was never expecting that boom, right? She didn't think that boom was going to be a thing. She just was working hard at her craft to perfect it as best as she could. And then because she had worked so hard and she had aligned it for what she saw in the future, her vision popped and her vision grew wildly past what she had imagined. And if she would have stopped, like what would that economy look like in the little town of Madison, Verona, Wisconsin? Like she is employing thousands of people, thousands,
right?
and bringing billions of dollars within her company. It's so crazy to go out there and just watch.
Well, and I think I'm getting ready to do a talk in November, and it's with the Rotary Club. And I was kind of talking with one of the members that was there today. And I said I'm going to be talking about. She said there's a lot of retired people. I said, hey, you know what? I'm going to go out kicking and screaming with 12 undone projects because I'm going to be working till I'm out the door, literally, or in the ground or in the box, whatever. Instead of outside the box, in the box. But anyway, I said I'm going to be working and be, inspiring people and creating change literally till I can't do it anymore. And I said I want to, talk with people and to not give up, because it doesn't matter if you're 65 and you've retired from a job after 35 years or something. You can still go have a whole new career and create something new for yourself, no matter what you want to do at any given stage in your life. You get to create the life you live in, so that you love living in it. It's your life,
And then
and go ahead.
back to those adjustments and modifications, right? So you don't
Yes.
get the life that you love just because you woke up today. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
being able to say, okay, take along the way. Like I have literally been architecting my career since I was 16. And being able to take the things that I like, what I don't like, what I need to adjust, tons of mistakes, and vowing to learn from them in order to get to a place where you're like, yes, I like this. But just because you get there doesn't mean that you're not going to change, or the need or the want doesn't evolve over time. And so I think we get so stuck on what the end game is going to look like. And it's like, just enjoy the journey. Like if you're consistently working and prioritizing on the journey, you're going to live that life that you want.
Exactly. And they're all baby steps. I mean, I think sometimes we think we need to, do the um, whatever's the 3-step jump for the long jump.
Hmm.
You know, those big, giant,
Yes.
stretching, leaping, steps. And that's really a lot of times not what really propels you forward in life or in business. It's all the little steps that you take in between leading up to those things and making sure the foundation of everything that you're doing and creating. And that's true even in relationships when we were talking about communication. It's the foundational communication, those pieces that are all in place that make it great on down the road. It's an investment in the end result, really.
A lifetime
So,
investment in yourself. You should be
absolutely. So, tell
consistently
me a little
investing
bit
in yourself.
more about your the G group or whatever you were talking about.
Yeah. So it's G Women, where
Mhm.
sisterhood
G
is
women.
so important. Like, I feel like it's at the core of what we need to do, right? We all say this
Mm-hmm.
concept of sisterhood and unity and let's sticking together, but it's actually about living it out. Like, you meet so many women who just want to be around like-minded women who want to push them and to
Mm-hmm.
encourage them, and that want someone to hold them accountable. But I also want to have fun with you sometimes too. Like, sometimes you just want to have girl time or girl chat, right?
Yes.
But then you also want to still be able to be in that same space with people that you can grow with. So I partner with an organization outside of Atlanta called the
Mm-hmm.
Grindation. And so it's a online community, national community. We meet for the women's portion of it, Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 7:30, where we talk about all types of personal development topics, also what we're working on, how we can support each other, how we can learn from each other, and that communication piece again. And then
Uh-huh.
on that whole, then Saturday, we have a national call as well.
Oh, that's awesome. Oops, I froze. I don't know if that's my internet or yours. Are you still on there? I lost you, Mel. Oh dear. Can't tell if she's gonna come back or not. Sorry, y'all. Error message, so it might be. Oh, well, I lost her, so we'll see if we can get her back on there. No, she's not on there yet, so we'll see. And gosh, I could talk to her for an hour, but we will have to come back with Mel and let her finish up. I was so enjoying listening to that and talk about the G women. That's awesome. I'm going to, don't know if I can get her back on yet. She's not back on yet. Okay, that's all right. She might have lost her feed. So anyway, I will just wrap up. So I just want to say thanks to Mel B Cook and from Baltimore, and what an awesome lady. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that you have all the links to connect with her. And if you would like to use any of her services, I'm sure that she'll provide me the links so that you can do that. And I will post that up when I get the video posted up. And I just want to say thank you so much for supporting Outside the Box with Sherri. If you know somebody who would be a great guest, be sure to send me a message on my Sherri Leopold business page and let me know, because I love shining light. And be sure to join me tomorrow at 3 p.m. Central. And I cannot wait for you to meet this dynamic mom and daughter duo and 7-year-old entrepreneur. So it's going to be amazing. So join me tomorrow and we will get back with you on another episode of Outside the Box with Sherri.